Before we begin, I just want to say thank you for the positive response to my last video. It's now my most popular video ever, so I intend to have the sequel out in not October because I've got a Halloween video planned, but one in November. Anyway, today we're talking about the Cornetto Trilogy. For those unaware, it's not about ice cream. The Cornetto Trilogy consists of 3 films: Shaun of the Dead, which is a film about a sales assistant called Shaun and his friend Ed who are trying to survive a zombie apocalypse. Then there's Hot Fuzz, which is about PC and Nicholas Angel moving to the seemingly peaceful countryside until accidents start occurring. Finally, The World's End is about Gary King reassembling his old friend group to finish a pub crawl they attempted when they were teenagers. Now, you might be wondering what is the connection between these 3 films, and to be honest, it's not a whole lot. So for one, there's 7 overall actors who appear in all 3 films, although each film's focus is Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. As they play different characters in each movie, and there's no reference to any other movie in any movie, we can presume that they don't exist in the same continuity. Another connection is the titular Cornetto. In the first film, Shaun asks Ed what he wants from the shop. Ed replies,
Cornetto.
In the next film, the same thing happens.
You want anything from the shop?
Cornetto.
Also, a Cornetto is seen in The World's End. All 3 films are made by Edgar Wright, which gives it a unique feel. And finally, there's the fence gag, which never ceases to be funny. Today I intend to look at each film and determine, in my opinion, which is the best film. This is going to go full spoiler, so make sure you've watched these films beforehand because they are some of the greatest films ever made. I think they're on Amazon Prime. I get them on DVD, I don't know, probably on Now TV as well. If I ever do a top 10 films list, I'm sure at least one of these will show up on it somewhere. Once again, spoilers. Watch these films first and then come back. Before we get into it, please consider liking the video and subscribing to this channel. It really helps me out a lot. And check out my podcast, Alex Likes Movies and Stuff. So I've determined a number of factors to base the quality of the film on. They are story, suspense, originality, acting, cinematography, setting, the soundtrack, pacing, and special effects. First up is story. The story of Shaun of the Dead was pretty good. It's a simple zombie story, but it's a damn good one. It's not the most complex, though. It is, in summary, let's just go to this bar. Or really, it's just people going from one place to another and fighting zombies in between. Hot Fuzz is a big improvement on that. It's a murder mystery with a seemingly obvious villain, but the twist really surprised me. I like how the danger of the film builds up slowly over time. This is the case with all 3 films, but it's best shown in this. One complaint I do have is the obligatory scene where Danny and Nicholas fall out, only for them to be friends again right after, only for them to have the big twist and a temporary all is lost moment. The falling out earlier in the movie is completely pointless. As for The World's End, the story is pretty great. I don't think it really has any flaws, and yet I find myself preferring the story of Hot Fuzz. So that's 1 point to Hot Fuzz. Next up is suspense. Honestly, I think they all have an equal level of suspense, but some moments stick out in my mind, such as when Barbara's in her friend's garden by herself and one of them is seen in the window, and it's a zombie. In Hot Fuzz, the scene when Nicholas finds all the bodies that the neighbourhood watch have murdered. And as for The World's End, just any scene where they're walking around surrounded by blanks, really. So, as a point from all, I guess.
As for originality, they're all fairly good at it. Shaun of the Dead combines the usually serious zombie genre with the romantic comedy, and considering romantic comedies are completely shit, you'd expect this to be as well, but yeah, it's great. Hot Fuzz is a classic murder mystery cop film. Throughout the film, it seems obvious that Timothy Dalton's character is the killer, which is partly right. He's part of a cult who are killing people so they can win a Best Village competition. That's a new one. And World's End starts out as a pub crawl and ends up being a sort of alien revolution, so World's End wins that. I will talk about cinematography, but I want to keep this video short, so they're all really great in that area, so they'll get a point for that. In terms of settings, they're all pretty memorable. However, to get straight to the point on this one, I've got to give it to Shaun of the Dead. Every set has at least one memorable moment, so in my eyes that means it outranks the other 2. That's the point of Shaun of the Dead. Soundtrack is the next one. No film has particularly memorable music created for it, so it comes down to songs. Hot Fuzz and The World's End have some great songs, but especially in the case of Hot Fuzz, some of these songs are underused, and this isn't the case for Shaun of the Dead, as you can see by the many pictures you'll be seeing right now of various songs used throughout the movie. The only one that is misused is Panic by the Smiths, but overall these songs, there's quite a few of them, they're all pretty decently used, unlike the other 2, so got to give it to this. That's another point for Shaun of the Dead. Next up is pace, and honestly the pace is perfect for all 3, but Hot Fuzz manages to bring all its elements together successfully in the end. Not to say the other 2 don't, but Hot Fuzz is at the best, so Hot Fuzz wins. Special effects are all great, but it's pretty obvious that Shaun of the Dead wins this one. The zombies look great, so does the gore, but the way this wins is the scene where David gets his chest ripped open. It's not Hannibal level violent, but it's pretty violent. That's some of the best special effects I've seen in a long time. So, yeah, Shaun of the Dead wins that one. Action has to go to Hot Fuzz. World's End is fine, but I was never particularly impressed by the action, and Shaun of the Dead is quite good, but Hot Fuzz, being a cop movie, obviously has the best action. Some of those shootouts are awesome. To finish off, let's talk about the cast. I'm going to give 1 point for Simon Pegg's character, 1 for Nick Frost's, and 1 for the rest of the cast. Starting off with the rest of the cast, Hot Fuzz is a fairly uninteresting extra cast, except for the 2 main villains, of course. All the townsfolk seem distinct, but it's the police which are a bit bland. Shaun of the Dead's cast aren't too interesting either. The highlights of Shaun's parents and his other housemate. The winner is certainly The World's End. The 3 friends besides Simon Pegg and Nick Frost are very likeable, as are a few of the side characters. That point goes to The World's End. Next up is Nick Frost's 3 characters. He plays Ed in Shaun of the Dead, Danny in Hot Fuzz, and Andy in The World's End. I like his more serious role in The World's End, but he's a lot funnier in the other 2. In Shaun of the Dead, Ed can sometimes come off a little selfish and lazy, whereas Danny has the airheadedness and heart of gold of Ed, without the more negative traits, so I've got to give it to Hot Fuzz. Finally, we've got to talk about the main character of each film. Shaun of the Dead's Shaun, Hot Fuzz's Sergeant Nicholas Angel, and World's End's Gary King. Right out of the gate, Shaun is the worst. There's nothing wrong with him, he's just not as complex as the other 2. Now we've got Nicholas Angel, who's a man unable to switch off, he's obsessed with his work and can't focus on anything else, and can't say I relate to that, but it's certainly endearing to watch this very lonely man, I guess, loosen up and, make a connection with Danny throughout the course of the film. They become great friends. On the one hand, we have a man who works too hard, and on the other, we have someone who doesn't. Gary King is a man who just wants to have fun. His fondest memories are of him and his mates hanging out in high school. All of his friends moved on to successful careers, happy lives and all that, and he didn't do as well. He's gone into drugs and depression, which led him to try and bring the gang back together for this pub crawl, which, suffice to say, didn't go too well. He certainly has an important journey to go on throughout the film, but I've got to give it to Nicholas. He's just the most likeable of the bunch. Alright, time to rank them. Coming in at number 3 with 4 points is The World's End. I love this film. It's just not as good as the other 2. Now, the problem is, the other 2 both came down to equal points, that being 6, so I've got to just decide, and I think the best is Hot Fuzz. I've watched this film more times than I can count, and I think it's the best. I mean, I've watched all of them quite a bit, but I keep coming back to this one the most, because it's just the most enjoyable. Disagree? Then tell me in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this video. There's October coming up now. Well, we're in October by the time of this release, so I'm going to make something spooky. Me and Tom are doing a podcast episode on the Halloween films, which should be coming out Halloween night. If you haven't already checked out my podcast, it's called Alex Likes Movies and Stuff, and you can get it wherever you get your podcasts. Before Halloween, I'm going to try and get another video out, though. It's going to be top 10 horror movies, but I'm not sure when that'll come out, maybe October 15th. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more videos like these, because it helps me out a lot. And I'll see you in the next video.